I was recently listening to an interview with a billionaire, and the question he was asked was, what's the secret to your success? How did you make so much money? And the answer actually blew me away. The billionaire looked right at the camera and said, the secret is that I was always adding zeros to my income. And I thought, what a simple yet really profound way to answer that question. He was just simply adding zeros to his income. If you think about that mathematically, a zero add, as long as you're adding the zero on the right side, by the way, the correct side, which is actually the left side, a zero add is nothing more than 10xing your revenue. Well, my guest today on EdTalks Live is no stranger to adding zeros to his revenue. In fact, he's built a $1 billion plus sales organization. We're going to get to that interview in just a second, but welcome to the most positive place on the planet for insanely implementable ideas. EdTalks Live is next. All right, hey, welcome to the show. My name is Ed Rush, 5-time #1 best-selling author, and your host for the most positive place on the planet for insanely implementable ideas. In just a moment, I'm going to be bringing on Michael McIntyre. Some of you remember, we did an episode about 2 weeks ago. It was one of the most highly rated, highly responded to episodes. And so I said, hey, man, you need to come back, dude, because we didn't even get halfway done talking about these sales strategies. But before I do that, I want to welcome you to the show and just say, if you're on YouTube, jump onto the right-hand side into chat and say hello. If you're on Facebook, below in the comments is your place to jump in and say hello. We are going to be taking your questions towards the end of the show, specifically related to sales. And so this is your opportunity to jump in and to hang out. I do want to mention a few people who jumped into chat. Dennis Bauer, first one in, said, happy Tuesday. Let's kick the tires and light the fires. Dennis is in the middle of writing a book right now. We were corresponding yesterday via email. He said the book grit chapter is finished. The book has been grammarlyized, and I'll finish the edit today. Thanks for your email. Aaron says good morning, and also asked about Dennis's book. I thought this was a good response. He said, my book unpacks 3 words from pilot training: aviate, navigate, communicate, and it helps people. I think his comment in here said he helps people handle the unexpected, which, as we know, never really happens. Hello, Robert. Welcome to the show. John Teague. Barry, welcome. You were in early as well. Aubrey, welcome to the show. Good to see you as well. Diana says gardens are magical places to keep grounded in these challenging times. Hello to everyone. Hello, Sally. Glad that you got a chance to listen to the show while you were on your walk. I will tell you that if you are watching this show on video, there are timestamps right below to the most pertinent parts in the show today. Now, I'm going to bring in my guest, Michael McIntyre. I did a full intro for you, dude, on the last show. First of all, I just want to say thank you and welcome back. I'm going to do an intro for you in just a second. But, dude, thanks for coming back to the show.
Thank you, Ed. I love being back here. You guys are amazing.
So last time, Michael and I did the show. So a little background. Michael is a machine. He built a 1.3 billion, that's with a B, sales organization, and recently sold that company. Now he helps entrepreneurs just like you to find their focus, to change the world, to create great products and services, and to sell better. And on the show, we did an hour show about 2 weeks ago called $1 Billion Sales Strategies. And on the show, we got to maybe about 10% of what we wanted to cover. And so I said, dude, you need to come back. Everybody raved about you. So Michael's back in the show. What's been happening since then in Corona land?
Oh my gosh, it's all happening, man. I tell you what, things are good. Things are moving, and we're just excited. I've been coaching so many, and it's awesome. And a lot of new things, a lot of pivoting, and a lot of new businesses being started. Listen, money's still moving out there, man. Money is moving in a big way, and I'm excited. I'm excited for May. May Day's coming up, and it's going to be incredible.
Yeah, I mean, the interesting thing is, like I heard this phrase from Dan Kennedy, I think it was about 10 years ago. And he said, you choose what side of the cash register you stand on. And I'll tell you, during this coronavirus situation, there have been some people who buckled down and kind of did like, woe is me. And there were people who accelerated forward. And you're one of those guys. I know the people that you're coaching are accelerating forward as well. And things are getting better. At least in Texas, where you live, you're getting ready to get allowed to walk around. California is still kind of stuck where we are, but that's just California, you know?
Yes, I understand. I understand California. Yeah, we're blessed to be here in Texas, and we're excited. I know there's a lot of pent up energy out there, and money's moving, and people are ready to go out there and invest and spend and get coaching. I mean, one of the things I was just talking to, I had a couple coaching calls this morning, got another one after this, but one of the biggest things people can do, and they always ask me, how can I do better and stuff? And I said, well, number one, you need to be coachable. Right. And being coachable is huge. And it's like when you and I get together, Ed, I mean, we coach each other. Right. And we're both like, yeah, man, bring it on, Ed. I want to hear your perspective of this. And you're saying, yeah, Mac, bring it on. I want to hear yours. And I think, iron sharpens iron. And I think it's real important in these times to seek wisdom and be coachable, and ask somebody, hey, what are my blind spots, bro? Because we all have them. Yeah. And I mean, when you were a fighter pilot, you wanted to make sure you had your six covered all the time. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, that's important. And so knowing your blind spots, knowing where you are at, laying down your pride, maybe laying down some of your ego, check your ego so you can cash a check.
I love that, man. And I'll tell you, I had a conversation yesterday with a guy that I absolutely love. He's someone who I've worked together in the past with on creating some events. And he called me and said, hey, I'm coming to San Diego because I'm going to do a coaching day with you. And I said, well, look, man, we can do this virtually if you want to. I know traveling's kind of hard. He goes, no, I think it's important for us to be face to face. And I thought, I just really admired that approach in this time when everyone's buckling down. I really admire people who are out there like, no, you know what? Now's the time to get better. And coaching, consulting, if you've got the chance to get advice from people who can really propel you forward, now is reinvention time, man. Businesses are being completely reinvented. True. And you've got a chance to add a zero right now because there's going to be opportunity that opens up, but you also have a chance to lose a zero as well. You can go either way right now, right?
That's right. Yeah. No, that's good. I mean, listen, it's opportunity unlimited. And I really believe that. And the great thing about living here in the United States of America is that, as you know, we've been deregulating things for the last 2 months. And it's amazing how many regulations, once you unbuckle the regulation belt, people can really prosper and flourish. And so my prayer is that we continue to unbuckle the regulation belt and let people do what they do and get back to what, because here in the United States, what we do is we are in business. The business of this country is business. Yeah. And that's where it's at. And to help other people, it's the greatest country in the world. And we help more people out of poverty. And when it hits the fan, who do they call? They call the United States of America. They don't call Bangladesh for a bailout.
It's interesting because what you just said, I love that quote, by the way, and that's going to end up on my social media feed at some point with your name underneath it. The business of America is business. Now, I will just say that there are people who would look at that and think, oh, that's like a mercenary or bad thing. But you need to remember that entrepreneurs, when an entrepreneur is doing what an entrepreneur should be doing, an entrepreneur creates more than they consume. They create more than they consume. So we have a world that has a scarcity of view that believes, falsely, by the way, that we have a world that believes everything is running out. The biggest indicator that things aren't running out is we have greater wealth now, we have greater prosperity now, and we have more people than we've ever had. Because when entrepreneurs do what entrepreneurs are supposed to do, they create more than they consume. I've got a little sign, Michael, at one of my events that says, when entrepreneurs do what entrepreneurs are supposed to do, they create more than they consume. Therefore, if you're an entrepreneur, have babies, okay? Because look,
that's good.
More people oftentimes means more resources. And I love what you just said, because if our country is about business, that means that we're bringing entrepreneurial solutions to the problem. And when we bring entrepreneurial solutions to the problem, we don't need bureaucratic solutions. Right now, Congress is getting ready to go back into session. They just delayed it. And everyone's like, yes, we need Congress back so that we can make some of these decisions. I'm like, we don't need Congress back. You let them stay home, hang out, let's us solve the problem,
Amen. Look, I mean, listen, when you unleash the power of capitalism and allow the marketplace to take over and it'll fix everything. It truly does. If you go back, and somebody did a study since 1860, I think it was 1850s, more that capitalism has accounted for more people coming out of poverty than any other system on earth. And, just take a look at Venezuela. If you think, if you want to think socialism is great, take a look at Venezuela. Take a look at Cuba. Take a look at these other countries. Capitalism is where it's at. And it's the free market system, which is where people can really use their God-given talent and to help bless others, help the poor. And the United States of America is blessed with massive amounts of richness, and we give massive amounts to other people to help them out. So yeah, entrepreneurship is that. It's birthing new ideas from whole cloth, create something from nothing, and go out there and benefit. And it's like, I often say, listen, there's niches in those, there's riches in the niches, and finding that niche. And you got three things when you find that niche. You got to have the right people, you got to have the right product, and you got to have the process. And if you've got those three things, your success in that entrepreneur's business, whatever it might be, has a very good chance of success.
I love that, by the way. So write that down as you're listening to this. This is people. The great businesses have the people, they have the product, and they have the process. I just want to just pause for a moment and just say, if you just joined us, which I just noticed a whole bunch of people just joined us, Michael. This is $1 Billion Sales Strategies Reloaded. That's because we did this show in a different format a couple weeks ago. It was one of the highest rated, most commented on shows. And now Michael McIntyre is back in the house. By the way, we're going to be taking your question on sales strategies as we interview the man. We're talking right now, riffing about the entrepreneurial benefit to the world at large. I will tell you, it's amazing the problems that we can solve when we put our minds together.
Yeah.
And frankly, it's amazing what we can solve when there's incentive behind solving problems too. And so I love the conversation about the entrepreneurial. I want to anchor in on what you just said. I love this. I have not heard you say this before either. People, product, process. Go a little bit deeper on that. I think it's brilliant.
All you have to do is the 3 Ps you can apply to anything really. And once you apply that in your life and you make sure that, first of all, you got to have a product, right? You need to have, a product that really captivates everybody. It could, and it's, in our sales world, we call it building a better mousetrap, if you will. And you've got that product, you come up with an idea. Like when we came up with, back in the early 90s, when I came up with a new idea to market insurance, I didn't know it, but I knew, but it created a better mousetrap. In fact, it revolutionized the whole insurance industry. And that's why we were able to develop a $3 billion industry, a company. And so if you have the product, if you have a good mousetrap, now you've got to have a process. And the process is, you can make it rain. If you make it rain, that's good. Your product will make it rain. Now you've got to have a process. You've got to have a well-oiled machine. You've got to have a good team behind you. You've got to have a way to trough that rain, right? I always tell people, look, I can make it rain. I'll make it buckets of rain. I just need some good people to trough that rain and make sure it's handled properly. The third thing you got to do is have good people. And this is where a lot of entrepreneurs fail, because they don't want to spend money on good people. Your people are your biggest asset. Yes, you got a good product. Yes, you got a good product or a good process, but now you've got to have amazing people. And a person told me a long time ago, back in the 90s, says, Michael, whatever you do not skimp on your people. Pay them well, give them acknowledgement, give them bonuses, and, just pour on them. What we used to do in our sales organization is we would bring the spouses in of the salespeople, and we would have a whole day just honoring them. We'd give them thousands of dollars to go shopping with limousines and all that stuff, because we wanted to pour out to them and acknowledge them, and because their people are so important to us. And if you've got good people, lavish them, treat them with respect, acknowledge them, reward them financially, and also in acknowledgement. There's nothing more better to be acknowledged amongst your peers for doing a great job and getting that reward.
That is such a cool idea. So you brought the spouse. That's I like that a lot. That's like the opposite of what the military did, actually.
Yeah,
It's a very, very, very smart strategy to get the spouse on board. Yes. That way, when the guy comes home, or the gal comes home, and they're like, I'm like so tired of my job. The spouse is like, you need to get back there.
Yeah, a lot of times we had, we worked people hard. We did. We worked hard. We did. And but I never had a spouse call me up and say, hey, McIntyre, I'm so tired of my husband making $500,000 a year. Just stop it. Just stop it. I never had that call.
How did you? I know money was part of the equation. How did you motivate your salespeople to excel?
Yeah, so most salespeople and most people in general, they have a competitive spirit, right? A healthy competitive spirit. And so what we always did is we offered incentives. I mean, Stacy and I, my wife and I, I would send her out to find great places to go. So we took 100 or 250 people on an Alaska cruise. It was an incentive. We took 200 people over to Monte Carlo, France, and then 300 people up to Rome, and we took people out to Cancun, and we constantly had massive incentive trips for our salespeople. And when they showed up for those deals, I would make it to where they didn't have to spend a dime, and we would give them money, and we would bless them, and it was just letting them know, because being a straight all these people were straight commission. They were 100% straight commission, and in that straight commission level, it separated the men from the boys, the women from the girls, the wheat from the chaff real quick. And so when you did find a good salesperson, you needed to take care of them. You needed to honor them, acknowledge them, and pay them.
It's interesting because I've spoken to more sales teams than I could have fingers and toes to count. And I've worked with a lot of teams and certainly have my own sales organization. And there's always, it's amazing in an organization. I mean, it's like the 80-20 rule just lays itself out perfectly. I mean, you've got your top 20% that just produce, but then up in that top 20%, there's an 80-20 there too. And you've got that top 4%, and then you've got the top 1%. I always find this, it breaks out, and there's always one or two right at the top that are always consistently performing. And everyone thinks they have some secret or something like that. Oftentimes it's just a very formulaic system. What your top performers, what distinguishes them from everyone else besides the result?
Generally a 4-letter word called work. And what would happen a lot of times is our salespeople came in because they were broke, right? They spent their last $10,000 on some scam lead system, and they didn't have any money, and they were discouraged, and they were tired of it. And their wife got tired of them searching for the Holy Grail, and this is the deal, and this is the final thing. So what we did is we took all of the things that salespeople do not like to do. We would set their appointments. We spent $6 million a year just on postage for mailing leads. Then we had call centers that would set their appointment. We treated those salespeople as if they were rock stars. All they had to do is show up and perform. But when they performed, they had to bring the house down. And so we always wanted them to say, okay, here's how you do. So we created a sales system that was geared to the lowest common denominator. If you would get and run 3 appointments a day, 5 days a week, and sometimes just 4, you would make at least $125,000. If you wanted more, if you worked harder than that, then the sky's the limit. And so we had people that would work, they were making $1 million a year, but they were working, man. They were getting after it, and they had some more. Sometimes they were gifted. And so what we would do is we'd bring people in for constant training. And we made the training fun. We didn't want it to be draconian. We wanted to have a good time. And so we would set up training systems. We spent $1 million a year just on training and to have people come in, and we would role play, and we'd constantly make them better, and we give them incentives as well. So the lower 20% or the lower 80% generally just did the minimum, or they were just not quite as talented, but that's okay. They were good too. We blessed them as well. But the top echelons, the top people, they went out there and they did whatever it takes. They had no excuses. They would have an attitude that if it's going to be, it's up to me. And we rewarded that lavishly as well.
It's amazing. Commission only. I mean, think about that. That's truly killing, eating what you kill. I love that approach towards business and definitely towards sales. So I'm going to take a break real quick and just say, if you just joined us, this is $1 Billion Sales Strategies. My name is Ed Rush, former F-18 fighter pilot. I am here with my friend, Michael McIntyre. We're talking about some of the strategies and some of the tools that build billion-dollar organizations. Opened up by talking about how one of the keys to success is simply adding a few zeros to your income. And we're going to go a little bit deeper in just a moment about sales strategy. Before I do that, I want to catch up to some of the comments in chat. Thank you, by the way, for your great comments and for your questions. In a moment, we're going to be taking your one-on-one questions for Michael regarding sales strategy. So if you'd like to put some of those in chat, you can just say your question. If you're on YouTube, that's over to the right-hand side. If you're on Facebook or Twitter, that comment section is right below you. If you haven't had the chance, it's such a simple thing to do. Just click that little thumbs up button that tells YouTube, Facebook, and the other social media platforms that you want more information like this. And if you haven't clicked the subscribe button, that's right here as well. All right, so I just want to say a couple things. First of all, David Zetz, very nice comment. David said, Michael, the 5-step objection strategy, that's what you taught on our last show together, was literal money for me in the last week. Thanks for that. I love it, man. Barry says, check your ego so you can cash the check. Welcome to the show, Matt Head. Good to see you, buddy. Ben says, awesome to see you. Glad to see Michael bring his experience back to his show. Barry said, yep, my wife and her family are from Venezuela. It's incredibly bad there now. And Giovanni over on Facebook says, thanks so much for sharing and greetings from Mexico. Hola, mi amigo, ¿cómo estás? And welcome to the show. Glad to be here. Estoy practicando mi español. Debía hablar como si fuera extranjero, pero se me olvidó todo. That means I used to speak Spanish like I was from Spain, but now I forgot everything. All right, so welcome to the show, Giovanni. Glad to have you, buddy. We are here with my buddy, Michael McIntyre. And if you just joined us, my name is Ed Rush. This is $1 Billion Sales Strategies Reloaded, because we did part 1 of this interview just a couple weeks ago. Michael, take me into some of the sales strategies. Last time you talked about this 5-part sales strategy. Let's go deeper on some of your ninja sales strategies that help your folks and you close $3 billion worth of sales.
Yeah, thank you. It's relationships. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people are out there with transactional, but I think one of the things, in fact, I was just on a coaching call and talked about Brené Brown and how important it is to be vulnerable. And it's really is, if you want to make sales, if you want to connect with somebody, even, hey, listen, if you're an engineer, if you're a teacher, if you're a pastor, if you're, an executive, if you're an accountant, or if you are in direct sales, the main thing, how to connect with human beings, is so important. And we all have the God-given ability, but we get into fear of man. We get into, am I going to look stupid? You might, but so what? Okay, who cares? Listen, timid salespeople have skinny kids. Okay, so it doesn't matter if you look stupid. How about making the sale and to do that, or making that connection? Maybe you are, maybe you're wanting to build this building and you're an architect and you want to sell the concept, and it's a kind of a different concept. Listen, you've got to be vulnerable, and being vulnerable requires courage. Make no mistake about it. Being vulnerable is not weakness, it's courage. And if you step into that vulnerability and have that human connection with your heart, okay, with your heart, you take this 18-inch journey down to your heart. Now you make that connection. And let me tell you something, that's when miracles happen. And that's when you connect with those people. If you got the great product, if you got a great process, and you're a great person to communicate and be vulnerable, man, you're going to make money. MONEY.
Love that, man. I've read, so I have a course on persuasion that I teach communication, but in my learning over 10 years studying this topic, I've read basically every persuasion and sales book I could get my hand on. And the interesting thing about it is there are books that almost every discussion of communication and persuasion starts with a very small discussion of rapport. They always say something like, it's really important that you have rapport with the person you're working with. And then they move on into the sales strategies. And it's interesting what you just described in terms of relationship, because you could have the best scripting. You could have the best strategies. You could have the best booklet of testimonials and materials. And if the person doesn't like you, they're not going to buy from you.
That's right.
No chance. And you could be the worst. I'm talking about, like, you could fumble the ball every time you talk. You could not speak in benefits. You could have an awful presentation, a manual. And if they like you, they're still probably going to buy from you. And it's just interesting what you said about relationships, because it's that connection that really starts everything. And most of the sales training and the people out there teaching sales, like, make a note about it and then move on. But really, that's core to it, isn't it?
It's true. I mean, listen, we had set up our sales organization, and I've helped other people in consulting and set up their sales organizations to where even if you are just mediocre in sales, you go out there and give a few presentations, somebody's going to knock you in the head and give you a check. Okay. As long as you follow the process and that you're vulnerable and that you can establish, like you said, that relationship, that human connection. It's just like, nobody likes to be sales pitched to, right? And we used to teach our salespeople, look, by the time you get in somebody's house or you're talking to them in their office, they have probably seen 2,000 or 3,000 salespeople in their lifetime. So the thing you have to do, and Jack Welch taught me this is that you have to experience differentiation. You have to be different. You've got to develop a blue ocean to where that it's different, and that you have that differentiation. Because if you're just like the last 3 people that showed up there, and you're just, you're trying to close and you're all ABC closing, they're going to see that. They're going to walk right through it. You've got to be authentic. You've got to be transparent. And this is in all aspects of life, not just sales. And, the way to communicate with your wife is being authentic, is to be real, is to be, transparent, and not try to be something that you're not. And that's what I love. One thing I love about being married, I can be myself and she still loves me. Imagine that. Imagine that.
So what you're saying then is you use sales strategies with your wife. I can't believe it. By the way, the joke there.
You can hear all this too, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's true in relationships. It's true in parenting.
Right.
I mean, really true in parenting. Like, I have a 1.5-year-old upstairs and a 14-year-old and a 13-year-old and an 11-year-old. If you don't understand persuasion strategies, you're going to get run over by those 4 right there. So,
and just let me just add to this, Ed.
Yeah.
It's about listening skills. Okay. And so many salespeople, when they're listening to their client, what they're usually doing is waiting for they're saying, okay, here's what I'm going to come back with this. This is my rebuttal. And that's where they lose that vulnerability and that relationship, instead of actually listening to what the client says and acknowledging what that client says. That's when you establish that relationship.
Do you have any scripting you use on that? When a client says something, you say something back?
Yeah, and it's real simple, and you listen, okay? So, because here's the problem with communication is there is none. And so what happens is, as salespeople, or if you're a teacher or whatever, or you're all passionate about something, sometimes you're going through there and somebody says something and you're really not interested. You're only interested in your comeback. So what I coach people on, when somebody says something to you, and so you acknowledge them, you might want to use this phraseology, and it needs to be true coming from your heart. What I hear you saying, Ed, how do I acknowledge people when they say something to me? Is that what you're asking? And so when you do that, that's like music. That's music to their soul. That comforts a place that might have been empty for a long time. What I hear you saying, Bill, is that you've had bad experiences in computer sales before. Is that true?
Yeah, that's good, man. I like that. That's great objection.
That's gold, baby.
What's that?
That's gold, baby.
Yeah, it's interesting. Again, going back to, we were making a joke about this, but going back to just relationships. Take your relationship with your wife, your husband, or your significant other. One of my bonuses, Michael, inside my persuasion course is a module called "How to Win an Argument with Your Spouse," and it's not really how to win. It really is a discussion of how to actually come to an agreement at the end on something. And part of the reason why people get into problems, so take this relationship, we'll go back into sales. One of the reasons people have problems with discussions with their significant other is there's this line of discussion that easily gets shot into something else, right? So it's like, she wants to talk to you about spending a little bit more time with the kids, and you go, oh, you don't appreciate the work that I do. Well, you know what? She's not talking about your work. You're talking about the work, but she's not. And people take things into branches. But if you just said, now what I hear and what I understand you're saying is you're concerned that I'm not spending as much time at home. Is that what you're saying? That actually just keeps you right on the train. I love that. And it keeps you from being, now take it into a sales environment, it keeps you from going off into something. I mean, I've had salespeople who countered objections that I didn't even bring up, that makes me wonder if they really believe in their stuff. All of a sudden they're talking about a guarantee. I didn't even ask about a guarantee. All I asked about was where the chips were made or whatever, right?
That's right. And so, and most salespeople listen more than they speak. The good ones. And the people who, what is that phrase about the jawbone math, cost more sales than anything else. And so, it's important that you listen as a parent, as a spouse, as a leader, especially as a leader, listen to what people say, acknowledge what they say. And if you're in a sales situation, make sure that you're listening. And, I even encourage salespeople to write down, take notes, and then refer back and say, hey, I just want to make sure that I'm hearing you properly. And that is nice to them. That is music to their soul.
It's really good, man. It's really good. So if you just joined us, and I do see the bunch of you just joined us online here, this is $1 Billion Sales Strategies Reloaded. My name is Ed Rush. I am here with my friend Michael McIntyre. We're talking about some ways to get more people to say yes. All right, so let's transition quickly into the solo entrepreneur. Before I do that, I just want to say hello to a couple folks. Nobby Kleiman just joined us from Australia. He said, nothing happens until sales made. Nobby says, hey, it's 3:30 in the morning. So Nobby, I don't know if you're at the end of your day or at the beginning of your day, but either way, my friend, I'm glad that you're here. So let's take it. Let me just welcome everybody. By the way, if you just joined us, my name is Ed Rush, $1 Billion Sales Strategies Reloaded with my friend Michael McIntyre. We're talking about sales strategies you can use right now to build your organization to get more people say yes. So, Michael, a lot of the folks listening on watching the show right now are solopreneurs. In fact, that's the way I am in terms of I don't have a sales team. I have me. If a sale is going to be made, it's because I'm going to be making a sale. So what advice do you have for folks not necessarily building sales teams, but who are actually going to be out there on their own, at least initially, building and closing the sale? What thoughts do you have there? How does it change?
Yeah, it's a great question. What I coach people on and I help people with this is to make sure that you do 95% of your day should be doing things that you love to do, whatever that is. And if it's you sitting in front of prospects, that's what you love to do. That's what you should do. So how do I do that, McIntyre? How do I do that? I'm on the phone. I'm trying to set appointments. I'm trying to get more clients. You need to get somebody else to do that. In the early days, when I just started in the sales, I was always setting my own appointments. I was always using leads and calling people. And I did real well at that for about 1.5 years. And then I got married and Stacy and I would travel together and she would constantly hear me on the phone setting appointments. And one day she goes, I can do that. I said, okay, great. Because I didn't enjoy hearing rejection after rejection to get one appointment. You have to go through maybe 5 rejections to get an appointment. So I said, okay, great. And so I would go out and run appointments and she set my schedule for the next day. So I get done making sales. The next day we could go to dinner, we could go to the movie. I didn't have to worry about my schedule. And what it did is it doubled my sales overnight because I didn't have to do that. So I used Stacy was a fulcrum so I could benefit and be doing the things that I love to do 95% of the day. So I encourage solo people to go out there and find somebody to set your appointments, do your prospecting for you. Because prospecting, I just got to tell you, it's painful. It just is. And if you take that prospecting out of your life and just do the things that you love to do, man, you'll double your money.
I really like that. So let's go a little deeper on that. There's a strategy here that I also recommend to the folks that I coach with. And what Michael started with, he said, spend 95% of your time doing what you love. I would suggest that most entrepreneurs, at least most of the ones I meet, are spending maybe 10% or less of their time actually doing what you love. And so I went back about 5 years ago and I made a list of the 200 things that I do in business. It was a long list. And then I went through there and I started to make little numbers next to each one as to how I liked it on a scale of 1 to 10. And what I realized was there were 3 things that I truly enjoy about business. 3 out of the 200, by the way. One of them was learning new things. The second one was creating new things. And the third one was communicating new things. Now, when I made that list, what it gave me was the other 197 things that at that point I could shed to a team member who could do those things because in fact, it was on their list of things they love, even though it wasn't on mine.
Come on.
And so just this week, I actually had a guy that I hired to do some consulting for me, to look at the business overall and to help me make some changes that I want. First question, he said, what do you love to do? I'm like, all right, dude, learn new things, create new things, communicate new things. He goes, okay, let's get you doing more of that. I'm like, thank you. That's what I want. And so my thought for you as you're watching this is make that list for yourself. That is a 3 to 4 hour time alone with your journal, thinking through the things that you love to do, and then build your business, as Michael just recommended, around the things that you love. I think that is so huge. I love the fact that you made that point. And the other part of that point is the other person, like I'm assuming your wife liked doing that prospecting part and it took it off your plate.
Yeah, and it's so good. I love the process that you went through to figure out what you love to do. And I know it's not an easy process, but it's necessary. And I love the way you did that. But yes, Stacy enjoyed that because first of all, when I got home or back to the hotel, we could go have dinner. We could go to the movies. We could go hang out. We could do whatever we wanted to do because I had the schedule. And it was she liked it because she could talk to customers and she had something to contribute to the family and to the business. And hey, she really liked it when we went from, $150,000 a year to $350,000 a year. And this is back in the 80s, baby. That's when that was real money. And so she really liked that. And so, yeah, it was a win-win. And there's people out there. I mean, if you read my book, you'd hear the rest of the story, which I'm not going to go into right now. But there's people out there that need jobs. I mean, we've got 30 million people out there that want a job, and so it's a great time to hire somebody. And nowadays, with this technology, just like you and I are using, Ed, is so great. You can have people, anywhere in the country working from the computer, setting your appointments. You pay them $12-15 an hour plus a bonus. Man, they would love it, because they get to be at home with their kids or their family, or they might be handicapped and they get to be blessed that way. And you get to be blessed in having those appointments or that prospecting off your hands, because salespeople really don't enjoy prospecting. That's probably one of the biggest things, that most common denominator amongst most salespeople.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. I also find that next step, which is almost always a qualification step, that's another step that salespeople typically don't love or do very well. So, for example, some of my clients, they're great on the phone. They love talking to people who are qualified, but 1 out of every 10 calls is with somebody who's qualified. The other 9 are with people who don't have money, they don't have the interest, they're not the right fit. Right. So do you recommend that a salesperson begin to streamline or potentially outsource that qualification process, bringing people in, the filtering?
Yeah, it's really good. We call it calling the list, right? And so what we would do is we would buy, names, and there's tons of names, Experian, Info USA, all kinds of places. We'd buy lists, and we spent a lot of money on these lists to where we'd want qualifiers. We'd FICO score them. We'd score them in a geographical region where we know where there's money is at, or there's a need. And, there's 2 things that you cannot overcome, and that's no money or no need. I don't care if you're JC, you're not going to make a sale, right? So you want your sales team or you want your prospecting team to be calling the juice. If they're not calling on the juice, you're burning cash. And so you need to spend a little bit more money to make sure that your leads or your prospecting is done efficiently, economically, and done with, to get the prospects that you want, because there's nothing worse than burning out your prospecting team, because they will burn out if they're calling, 50 people to get 1 appointment. Yeah,
that's cool. I like that. And by the way, I just have a side thought on resourcefulness. I'm going to get to in just a second. I want to just jump in and say hello in chat. By the way, if you just joined us, $1 Billion Sales Strategies Reloaded. My name's Ed Rush. I'm here with my guest, Michael McIntyre. We're talking about sales stuff. Cherie jumped in and said, Michael is the best. I like that, man.
Thank you, Cherie. You are too.
Nabi says, do what you do good, you're good at, and delegate the rest. Aaron says, I missed it last time. What's the name of Michael's book? In a moment, I'm going to show your website, Michael, and I'm not sure. Do you have a book there, or it just?
Yes, I got a book there, and I got an ebook. I got that book. I got books.
And Darren Eubank says, hey, Mac. So he must know you. Cool. The website, by the way, is below. Hang on a second. I'm going to put that there. Michael's website is themichaelmcintyre.com. That's put that before that. There's a comedian out there with your name.
Yeah, so, I'm funnier than he is, but
you're better and funnier and faster, but
he's funny. He is funny though. And it's funny because we got the same name, and he's from Scotland, and my ancestry is from Scotland, and so yeah, it's interesting to come across another Michael McIntyre spelled exactly the same.
I took my coaching members to Scotland last year, dude. We might need to hook that up again.
We went to Skibo. We took a bunch of people out to Skibo out there, and right on the northern sea, and it's just so beautiful. I love the people there. It's great.
Good golf courses too. I'm not going to tell you where I went, but it was a good golf week. All right, so Anyway, so hey, welcome all of you who just joined us. We're going to be rolling up our sleeves in a moment and taking some of your questions. I've got to get Michael off and onto a coaching call in about 10 minutes. So if you have any specific questions on sales or sales strategies, let's do those. Put those right into chat. Just tell us your question and we can get rocking and rolling. And in a moment, we'll be taking your questions. But until we do that, I've got a thought on what you just said. I just want to welcome everybody who just joined us. So if you just joined us, my name's Ed Rush. This is Billion Dollar Sales Strategies Reloaded, our second interview today with my man, Michael McIntyre. It dawned on me. You said two things I thought were particularly interesting right now. The first thing you said was, if you need help, hire someone. And I thought, you know what? It's a good point. Right now, especially, people need to boost their income because a lot of people just lost their jobs. Their business isn't what it wants to. All of a sudden, there's opportunity there. And I started the show by talking about how there's opportunity in the world right now that wasn't there. And I never thought, Michael, about that thing. The second thing you said is we used to buy all these lists, right? And just last fall, I actually went out and found a list of business owners in the Dallas area, actually where you are.
Yeah.
500,000 revenues of 500,000 up to 40 million. And in just the 50-mile radius around Dallas, people that describe themselves as founders, CEOs, or founders or CEOs of companies 500K to 40 million, there's almost 5,000 of them. When I saw that list, I was like, man, I would have guessed it was like 700, you know? My point on the list and my point on when you said hire someone is, a lot of times when I work with entrepreneurs, they feel resourceless. In other words, they're like, gosh, if I could only, but the truth is you can only. There's everything available to you.
Totally.
It's just there. And the difference I see between really successful people, Michael, like you, and folks who have been struggling is the successful people are the ones who go out and get the resources and pull them in because they're available. Would you comment on that?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, look, when I started building my insurance company, it was back in 1993, and we had none of the technology we have today. But we spent money. We did. We went out there and spent money on lists. We spent money on direct mail. We spent money on call centers. We spent a lot of money, but it was worth it because we generated a lot of money. Nowadays, it's so much easier. Okay. And obviously, as we grew in our business all the way through the 90s and then 2000s, we adapted and got more technology and it was easier. But right now, you can be a solo practitioner. You can be a single person entrepreneur, get up a website for $5,000, maybe even less than that, maybe just $2,500. You can be up and running, having a website and look like you're on Park Avenue. And what kills me is some of these Gen Zers or millennials out there say, oh, I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to do it. Stop being stupid. Everything is out there. It's all there. It's so easy today. It's so easy. And all we have to do is walk into that space and do it. Now, listen, I'm a Christian and I believe that Jesus is my Lord and Savior. And so I give it to them. I give it to him. And I just say, listen, God, I'm going to get up every day and I'm going to do the possible. I'm going to let you do the impossible because you've given me gifts. And one of the things is to utilize our assets and the internet. All this is like a fulcrum. And if we just utilize it, there are people out there that can help you grow your business. And I'm not just saying, I get bombarded daily on LinkedIn with about 300 million people asking me, do you need more leads? I don't need them from you. I know how to generate my own leads. I know how to go out there and hire people and say, okay, I'm going to spend $10,000, or I'm going to spend $2,500, or I'm going to spend $1,000, and I'll get a list, and I know how to call through this, and I know how to get a social media expert to do all this. So it's all there. You got social media, you got direct mail. It's still good. It still works. You got telemarketing, which is still good. It still works. And you've got these avenues, and social media is amazing. Just in the website alone and the metadata and bringing up, the different Google searches on there, it's all right there. All you have to do is reach out to the resources and get it. Here's a good resource too, because some people are on budgets. I get it. I've been broke twice. Didn't like it each time. But if you're struggling financially, go to Fiverr, FIVVER.com, and you can find anything you need to have done really at a less expensive price than you think. And you can be in business in 3 days. You can be up and running. And don't worry about whether you should incorporate or not, or whether you people get analysts with, they become paralysis by analysts. Just get out there and start. Once you start making revenue, once you start bringing in money, then you can backfill and fill that, figure out what corporation you want to be.
Every once in a while at my events, we'll do a Q&A segment and someone will come up and ask, hey, should I be an LLC or a corporation? And I always ask the same question back. I go, if I gave you a check for $1 million right now, would you go find the answer to that question? And they go, yeah, I'd go find the answer. I go, great, get the million, answer the question. So first step is the cash. All right, so I'm gonna transition real quick. By the way, if you just joined us, this is $1 Billion Sales Strategies Reloaded. Ed Rush, my friend Michael McIntyre. You mentioned something about your faith, dude, and I love it. And I want to ask you a question, but I'm going to set the foundation by telling you this. And I haven't really told this story publicly, and I'll make it as quick as I can, maybe about 45 seconds. I was sitting in that chair right there about 13 years ago. I had just launched one of my businesses. It started to become successful, moving into the six-figure range, right when I was getting out of the Marine Corps, right when I was getting started. And as I was sitting in my chair, the doors were open. I heard in the valley below a police car, woo, woo, come flying through the valley. And the first thought through my mind was, I hope they're not coming for me.
Wow.
Now, in that moment, I had done nothing wrong, legally, ethically, nothing. Okay, I was growing a business. I was getting people to respond to online advertising for a product that I was under-promising and over-delivering. So there was no legal issue. There was no ethical issue. There was no moral issue. There was only my own messed up conscience about business. For some reason, I had learned as I was growing up to equate sales with evil. And wow. So therefore, when I heard the police officer sitting in my car, I'm like, oh, they're not coming for me. Now, you're a man of faith, dude, but you grew a $3 billion sales organization, and some people would see a disconnect with that. How do you bring together your belief system, your faith, and your sales system? How do those coexist peacefully?
Well, great question. And I love your story. Isn't it funny how the enemy will put thoughts in your mind when you haven't done anything wrong, right? Yeah. I refer back, a lot of things. I mean, John 10:10 is a scripture that I follow in a lot, which it just says in John, it says, the enemy came to kill, steal, and destroy, but Jesus came to give us life abundant. And life encompasses everything. Life encompasses your physical, your spiritual, your mental, your financial, your relationship. And God wants us to, in my opinion, God wants us to have life abundant. And, a good friend of mine, Lance Wallnow, he said to me one time, he said, there's nothing more sad than a broke philanthropist, right? And so if you want to go out and bless people, if you want to help people, hey, even if you don't believe in God, if you just believe in a higher power, maybe the lampshade is your higher power or whatever, okay? Then if you want to help people, if you're a good person, if you run in the secular world and you have secular beliefs, but you feel that you're moral, then your moral obligation is to help other people. And to help, better the place around you. To do that, you need money. And lots of it. Okay. I don't know Bill Gates's, his belief system. Probably not. He probably doesn't run in the same tribe as myself, but the man does give a lot of money to charity, and he does do a lot of help for a lot of people. And some people feel that, he doesn't, but regardless of that, to have that money to be able to help other people. Now, the Bible also says is that money is the root. People always misquote that the idol of money is the root of all evil. So idolizing money is not good. It's no more than, when I had my jet airplanes, at one point, I loved my jet airplanes. I had identity with that. And this is before I knew Jesus. But once I walked out and gave my life to Jesus, that was not my identity. I didn't really care about that. What I cared about is Jesus and my identity through Christ. So what I would encourage business owners, make a lot of money, man. Make bank, baby. Make some hay, because there is going to come a time when it does rain and you're going to need that money to help other people, help yourself, help your family, maybe, whatever. Even if you're not a believer, you can still help other people in that moral way, because God, in my opinion, God's created this country so we can be the wealthiest country on this earth and help other people who are needing more help. Just like when George Bush, started helping everybody in Africa to combat AIDS. That took money and tons of it, buku money, okay, billions of dollars, and that's continued to do. To grow. And, I think that's, and some of those people maybe in Africa didn't believe in God, but they believed in the money coming in to help them combat that horrible disease.
I love that, man. I love it. People say they're blessed, sometimes forgetting the second part of the sentence, which is blessed to be a blessing. Yeah. Someone asked me last week on chat, they said, how do you think we can change the political structure of the United States. I said, this first step is for good people, good entrepreneurs to make and keep money. Because the fact is, the currency of the world. Look, I had a friend of mine, I love this quote. He said, God doesn't care about money. He says, but we care about money. And because we do, God does. I thought that makes a lot of sense to me, right? It's like, he doesn't need it. He doesn't need to use it, but because it's important to us, it's important to him. And the truth is, our world operates based on financial resources. You can say all you want about that. You can disagree with it, but look, it's like,
it's true.
You stand on top of a building, you can disagree with gravity. And if you jump off, gravity's going to make you a believer, you know?
It's true. I mean, listen, I enjoy material things. I really do. You know, Ross Perot, God rest his soul, he's a neighbor of mine. And I remember him saying, listen, material things will never make you happy because they always break. It's so true. You know, I've had all the great material things, the yachts, the planes, and all that stuff, which is fun, the great cars, and I love it all, but it's not my idol. It doesn't define me. What defines me is my Lord Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior, who climbed up on the cross and died for all my sins. That defines me. That's who he made me to be. But I do enjoy a great dinner. I enjoy driving Mercedes-Benz. I enjoy flying privately. I do, but that is not the idol of what I want. Because for me, after everything's said and done, the only thing that matters is I'm working for an audience of one, and I want to honor my Father and glorify him in all the things that I do, say, and think.
That's so cool, man. And you know, the thing about it is you can have all that stuff as long as, like you said, it's not the why, right? It's just blessed to be a blessing. I love it, man. Chat just blew up, dude. So I'm gonna just say hello to a couple folks.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna come back to you to ask for your last thoughts because I know you need to jump, brother. Cherie says, I love it when Michael talks about his faith. Me too, dude. Me too, Cherie. I appreciate you saying that as well. That's why I asked him. She says, thank you for your service. Thank you, by the way, for saying that. It's very kind of you. She said, John 10:10. That's the thief comes to steal, kill, and destroy. But I've come to have to give life so that you can have it to the full. A little paraphrase there at the end because I'm not looking at it. All right. So Scott Ingram says, what's up, powerhouses? What's up, Scott? Good to see you as well. Ben says, I wish we could answer this. We don't have time, Ben, but I'm going to maybe just have to ask Michael to come back again in a couple weeks. We'll do this again. So amen, Scott, go baby. And I love this. Mike Toy says, working on an audience of one. What a great insight, man. I really appreciate that. Dude, we could go on and on.
I know.
50 minutes just went like that again, like it went last time. So
come on.
I like having our conversations, man. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Ed. I enjoy it. What you do is amazing, and how you do this every day is just awesome. I just love the platform that you're building, and your audience is amazing. And I think it's really cool. I love the way you give back, that you're a BA fighter pilot as well, you know, and I just think it's really cool. I do.
I appreciate that. By the way, if you're just watching, first time you've ever been here, we air live every day, Monday through Friday, 10 Pacific, 1 o'clock Eastern, same time every day, different topics, but mostly around how you as an entrepreneur can change the world. Okay. Come join us. If you haven't already done so, edrush.com is the website. You can just put your name and email. You'll get some updates from time to time, and I'll treat you well. Okay. So my team member is Delisa is going to put that into chat. If you haven't seen that, go say hello to that. Mike, I need to get you, Michael, I need to get you off here in about a minute and a half. So give us your last thoughts, and then I'll let you go.
Entrepreneurship's the way to go. Business is great. Sales is a noble and an honorable profession. If you want to be in sales, listen, and you know, it's not, you know, salespeople, you need to step out of your comfort zone. If you've never been in sales, it's the highest paid profession, bar none. Most of our salespeople make more than doctors and attorneys, and you know, even the only doctors that really compete with a great salesperson is neurosurgeons. If you really got a good product, process, and people. But I would encourage you to stay focused on the prize. For me, is Jesus, and you know, work. Get you a system. Help bring other people in there so you can do 95% of the things that you love to do all day. Enroll other people to help you out, and just prosper and keep focusing, keep working. Don't be discouraged. Okay. Perseverance, right? And here's the thing. The only difference between successful people and unsuccessful people is that successful people do the things that they don't want to do. Unsuccessful people don't do the things they don't want to do. That's simple.
Like 17 nugget bombs. in about 35 seconds, dude. Hey, Michael, thanks, buddy. I appreciate you. I know you got to go, so I'm going to let you go. Thanks, brother. I like you, and I love you, and I thank you for your time, man. All right, bud.
Thank you.
All right, so that was a $1 billion sales strategist, Michael McIntyre. What a great interview, man. I could go on and on. I've got a page of notes, and I could have done 2 if I was writing feverishly. I love what he said at the end about doing the things sometimes you don't want to do. Sometimes that means picking up the phone. Sometimes that means going to make the sale. And so chat just blew up. Thank you. I'll make a few comments about that as well. If you have been here for the very first time, this is EdTalks Live. We go live every single day at 10 o'clock Pacific, 1 o'clock Eastern, especially right now during Corona Town. Tomorrow, I'm bringing in my friend Jonathan Sprinkles. We're going to talk about connecting after COVID, the new rules for building trust and closing sales. Mike Koenig's on Thursday. I'm going up to his studio, actually. We're going to spend the day together talking about the fastest way to the cash. And I've got a show for you on Friday that I've never done before that I'm not even going to tell you about just yet. It's going to be a super secret until we get there. But I'm going to teach you one of my insider strategies for asking questions to your higher power and getting answers. I'm going to tell you, Friday's going to blow you away. Okay, so without any further ado, I'm going to jump in the chat real quick and say hello to some of you. I love this. I love sales. Life is sales. Dennis says, appreciate the mesh of faith, family, and entrepreneurship. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Thank you, Robert. Great show as always. Ed and Michael. Talisa says, you can always find us here, edtalkslive.com. Thank you, Scott, for your awesome comments. I appreciate that as well. And thank you, Sherry, however you pronounce your first name. You are awesome. So thank you for that as well. Just remember, this too shall pass. The world will go back to some semblance of normal, really not normal, a new normal. And when that happens, you are going to be better, faster, and stronger. And together as entrepreneurs, we are going to go off and change the world. This was EdTalks Live. My name is Ed Rush. I'll see you tomorrow. Until then, go out and change the world.